At that time, is now you recall, it's a bit tough, a bit scary,
Yes.
because there's no, how should I say, everybody working together. Inside the engine room, at one time, when we try to do the alignment of the engine, people beside just doing some welding. The piping people, they are fixing the pipe, they just do some welding. And then somehow people, they also do some welding and do some testing. I think the engine room, upper deck and lower deck, at least more than 100 people are working at the same time. Everyone is doing his own job. You don't care about other people, you do your job. So there's one safety officer, but the whole yard, there are 3-4 ship building, new project building ongoing at the same time. Only one safety officer. The safety officer is a Malay. No one, I should say, everybody don't give him a damn. I mean, he come in, he say, hey, cannot wear. No one care about him.
Just give us a quick explanation why sometimes you cannot wear.
Because the other side is doing some testing, and then there may be some gas involved. So for a tank, after the welding complete, they must make sure there's no leaking, no hole. So how to do it? You have to cover out the tank and then pump in some gas. Sometimes it be air, depend on the tank content later on. So they have to build out the pressure. So imagine if there's some leaking somewhere, it may explode. Depend on how high is the pressure. And then no one is caring about it beside those how people who are doing testing. At the site, everybody start doing their own job, doing the welding, doing their installation. No one know what is going on other party. You only know do your job. You see, someone welding over there. Someone is doing some hammering over there. I should say the coordination at that time is not really properly done. That means everybody is rushing for their own deadline because the ship, there's some milestone like, okay, by when we have to do the launching, by when we have to start the engine, by when we have to do the sea truck, by when we have to deliver the ship. All these are fixed. So everybody go accordingly.
Yeah, so you tell the team not to weld. That means that they will be delayed, right? They don't want to be delayed.
Yes. No one will listen to you. I do my job.
Yes.
You do your job.
And the safety officer didn't have any authority?
Yes, he got no authority at all. He just a Malay guy who can't speak English properly. You know, you have to use Malay. He say, stop. He only know how to say stop, but why stop, he cannot explain. And then no one really care about him because he got no authority at all. And then because he says stop, you stop. Then all your workers sitting there cannot. So things are in very messy. But luckily, that is a new ship construction. You can imagine if ship repair is running this way, you really can't imagine. That's why I think in the 1978 October, the Spyros case, the accident, the ship repair accident.
Yeah, so
the ship really repair.
The ship repair is more complicated because the ship is already functioning and there are things, dangerous chemicals inside the ship, right?
Yes. So normally they are also rushing. Say the ship, imagine if it's operating the ship, they are making money. Now they stop operating, come into the yard for do some repair. If delay one day, they will lose money more. So they will fix the date, say, okay, 3 days. After 3 days, I must gone already. So within these 3 days, all the items that need to repair, everybody will try to rush. Otherwise, you will pinpoint that you are the one who caused a delay from the top.
I want to talk about Spyros a bit, but later, let me get some details from you first. So you were working for a shipyard, is that right?
Yes, yes.
What's the name of the shipyard?
That is Gul Engineering. I think it's
Okay.
part of Singapore Slipway, part of Keppel Group.
This is at the Banwa channel or whatever it's called, in Jurong, right?
The place is Jurong at the Gul Road. At that time, Gul Road, there's some seafront. So shipbuilding normally you have to be facing the water.
Sorry, this is a Singapore company, is that right?
Yes. It's a Singapore company.
Okay. Because in the 70s, some of the researchers were aware of the lack of safety, right? Whether it's in construction or whether it's in the marine industry. I think there is an academic from the University of Singapore called, his name is Gui, I think. And he did a lot of studies trying to encourage and emphasize the need for safety. But I guess, what do you think is the most important factor if safety is going to be practiced? What is the most important factor to make it happen?
I think in the 70s, my contact and the understanding is those older than me, the generation that in the 40, in the 50, a lot of them, they are working with the British. Sembawang Shipyard, Keppel Shipyard. So mostly ship repair, but their ship repair are more on military vessels, and so they do have a proper procedure. So I remember some of my senior who are specialized in their area, they are the apprenticeship from the naval base. So when the Navy, when British withdraw, these are the people who are the core team for the ship repair and shipbuilding in Keppel or in Sembawang. But when come to commercial building, later on when commercial repairing, I think the focus will be mainly more on the turnaround. I mean, the profit and loss is definitely one of the major considerations. So I think we are able to have a proper system built out or learn a lot of things. We should have learned a lot of things from the naval base. I think they have a proper procedure on how to do all this repair work and building work.
But
in the 70s, I think our whole industry say we are going to industrialize. So we want to do it fast in a faster way. So a lot of things we skip. I mean, as you mentioned just now, the university lecturer or the academia do highlight some of the important things that when we move forward, we should take care of this before anything happens. I mean, I definitely agree with it. As the technician working on the floor, I mean, sometimes I feel very unsafe, especially after the spiral case. I decide to leave the industry. That time also, that project, that the ship that I built is complete, so it's sailing. And then I supposed to take out another new project, but
yeah,
I decided to leave.
Yeah,
I learned a lot of things from the shipyard, no doubt, and then with a lot of hands-on experience. But I feel that it's not a good place to work.
Yes, I mean, I kind of see there's a similarity between the textile company and this Gul Engineering in terms of they just want to maximize the productivity, right? They want to do things quickly or maximize the amount of time that they have. Of course, when it comes to the marine industry, there's this element of danger there that is maybe not so much in the textile industry. Do you think then that is the crux of the matter, that you got to get the management to realize that?
I think the the management realize that. They do realize that, but they don't go into the ground, especially the shipyard. You know, those superintendent, those yard manager have never walked into the ship one. You know, the ship, when you do the installation like us, you really need to go on the ship. How difficult is it? You know, there's a bucket, there's a separation between the tank, the double bottom tank, and then the access space is called a manhole. The manhole is 18-inch by 12-inch. And then you have to close this manhole to get into the tank. So imagine with my present size, I don't think I can cross over. There's a technique, you have to right leg close first, then your head go together. Because imagine 18 inches by 12 inches, it's an elite. So those management staff, they will never go on board the ship.
Right.
So they don't see the mess. So imagine you go to the ship, you have to put on an overall. You cannot wear your normal long pant and long sleeve.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I just recall one thing, right? That a lot of these workers, am I right? They will actually contract workers. There's a contractor who is managing them.
Right, the shipyard. Except the machinery, like the fitter, the charge hand that are in charge is a yard worker. That means directly employed by the yard, because machinery is very important. Especially at the end of the day, you have to make sure this functioning properly. But like those house worker, the piping worker, those outfitting worker, all are contractor. All they sub out to a subcontractor, and then this subcontractor will go and recruit Malaysian. At that time, a lot of them are Malaysian, I remember. We still don't have an Indian and all these China worker. So mainly the Malaysian Chinese, all those piping worker, those outfitting worker. Outfitting worker is more similar to our renovation, house renovation. You know? So you got carpenter, you got those painter, all sort of trade under this outfitting group. So all these are, I should say, non-Singaporean, except the supervisor, like a technician, maybe is like me, okay, Singaporean. Then all the workers are Malaysian.
So if we kind of bring the issue back, right, to safety, the contractors do know the dangers because they're experienced, but they are also, rushed to make the deadline. The management can probably know the dangers, although they don't visit personally. So to kind of solve the problem, right, where do you start with? Do you start with the contractors or do you start with the management?
I think you have to, this have to be from the top down, because to the contractor, the boss, to him, he want to make more money. I quote you a case, those piping contractor, you know, when you run a pipe, normally is along the wall. So sometimes one of the corner, when pipe to pipe connect, you need to have 4 bolts to tighten it. So because of the pipe is against the wall, so sometimes they cannot use a normal tools, cannot tighten it. So you have to use special tools to tighten it. So when we do the testing, because if the pipe is not tightened, then there's air leak the thing will not function, like the water pump, the water will not be pumped up. So we had to go and trace what's the problem, where's the source coming in, following the pipe, long. So we had to close one manhole after another manhole to check the pipe, where's the leaking. Then, I mean, this is a usual experience now. Hide at one corner, because that particular boat, you need a special tools to tighten. So the pipe worker normally, they just use a common tool to tighten the three that are accessible. Then the last one, common tools is not accessible, you need a special tool. They just use hand to make sure it's hand tight, that's all. Then he will forget about it, he will not come back using a special tool to tighten it. So when we do the testing, this part is not tightened, so air leak, water leak, then we have to go and tighten it. But we cannot trace back who is the one who do this thing. We can just tell the boss, say, hey, please rectify this, give him a defect list, then we come and rectify. So this situation, what I'm trying to say is, everybody is trying to do a fast job, not a proper job. To the worker, that one never tight, because he don't have a special tool with him that day. So to him, he think that 3 is enough. It's too troublesome for him to bring a special tool and come and tighten out this boat. But without tightening this boat, the whole system cannot work. But there's no responsibility for him, because the boss also not very sure who is doing this, who is tightened out. Not the last boat was not tightened.
Yes. Yeah.
So this thing, it can lead to accident. I mean, this is a small case that water leak, but it may lead to some other accident.
Right.
So everybody is trying to do the job fast, but okay, that's what you can see lah.
I do agree that management plays maybe the most important role in this, right? The culture of safety must be inside the whole ship. Can I ask you, what are some of the dangers that can happen when you're working on a ship?
When the ship is under construction, there's a lot of things not placed properly. You can easily fall down or hit your head. So the safety helmet is very important, but you may trip up anytime, because inside the engine room, imagine once we want to start the engine, we have to pour oil, pour this, pour that, and then some may leak here and there. So people may not clean out the floor. So the floor may be very slippery, So you wear safety shoe, yes, but easily sometimes you knock here, knock there. Sometimes things fall out from the top, from your head, So this type of small accident is very common, I should say. Then big accident is when you lift some heavy thing. Just how I mentioned, before the ship launch, we have to make sure all the machinery on the underdeck be lifted on board. The engine, the size of engine is maybe half of the basketball court, about half the size of basketball court. So want to lift this big giant onto the ship, you need a lot of experience and coordination for the lifter, the lascar. And these are one group of people that they are very skillful, but it's a very important job in the whole process, but their pay is very low. They are so-called ready rated worker by the supplier of supplying a general worker. So this supplier is supplying general worker. Every day he come to the office and then say, tomorrow piping you need how many people, how people you need how many people. These are general worker, not special trade. So like you want to dig a hole or you want to do some laborer's job, you will call these people in. So the lifting is so important. I look at it. They always use this type of general worker. Some may be experienced, some they are not experienced. So sometimes this thing may fall, drop, or although they are covered by insurance, but when you working in a shipyard, you have to keep your eye open. There's a lot of things lifting around the ship, whether to lower it or to lift out and all this. It's dangerous at that time.
Yeah. Will you ever hurt yourself?
Fall down, yes. I mean, those are small cases.
Have you seen an accident yourself?
Not accident, but this accident can lead to a lot of things. I quote you an example. Just now when I say those workers who not tighten the boat, this is a welder. He weld a tank, a cover, and then it's not weld properly. And then during the testing, the pressure test, they say, according to the supervisor, that they see some leaking, the pressure slightly drop. So they think that may be not that important, so they pass it,
Right.
So when the ship want to start, this happened to be a hydraulic oil tank. And then this hydraulic oil is going to operate the controllable pitch propeller. Normally our propeller is a fixed blade, but this ship, because of the system, they are using a controllable pitch propeller. And then it's using the hydraulic oil to operate. So a motor to pump the hydraulic oil and all this. So the tank is storage of hydraulic oil. So it was leaking, but very minor leaking. Nobody noticed that. So when you start test the engine, start doing all sort of testing, it's okay. The propeller change pitch and all this, everything is normal. Then we go to Citra. After everything okay, go for Citra. During the Citra, the propeller not functioning as it should be. That is a big issue. Imagine if halfway of the sea, if the propeller is not go accordingly, then it may be very dangerous. So we have to stop the Citra and do emergency docking in order to find out what is the problem. So I remember that incident because I stayed about 3-4 days aboard the ship, never go back. Because the propeller is part of machinery. So we want to know what's happening, We have to find out what's the problem. Otherwise, everything have to stop. So finally, it found that the hydraulic oil in the storage tank is a bit milky. Look like there's some water content on it. So, but the report said that the tank is tested. That means no leaking. That means someone may have poured water, not possible. So a lot of questions asked. So we go to dry dock and then flush out the whole system and then retest the tank again, the hydraulic oil tank again. And then this now, everybody is opening their eye to look at it. And I found the pressure after a few hours do drop a little bit. Theoretically, this is not allowable because it's supposed to maintain if it's no leaking. And then they go and find out, everywhere check, those use other instruments to check everywhere. And they really find out there's a small leaking. The welding was not doing the complete job. There's a small gap there. So I always remember this particular incident because, as I mentioned just now, I spent 3 days on board the ship, never go back. continuously, just to follow out the case, make sure everything is okay. And finally, okay, detect this is the source of the hydraulic oil dilute with water.
Were you able to find out which worker it was?
No way. Because at that time, there's no traceability. Maybe contractor, which contractor, but that contractor, his man is turning around very fast one. So the boss, yes, this is your job, this, but who? He cannot pinpoint one. He will say, oh, sorry, he will just do it. And then this, maybe, I don't know whether claim insurance, I'm not sure, because that's the upper management, how they do it.
Yeah, and that is the
But
crux of the
imagine if
problem,
this thing
right?
is not detected earlier, and then the ship sailed to the big sea.
Yeah. Let's now talk about Spyros, shall we? Let me just give a brief context about the Spyros. I think many Singaporeans know about Spyros. 1978, a Greek oil tanker called ST Spyros came to Jurong Shipyard for repairs. And what happened was the repair work was allowed to proceed. And on 12th October, 3 fitters were working to fix the cover, which was for a vent pipe, right? And 2:15, as one of the fitters was using to use heat, right? Heat work to try to remove one of the rusty nuts. Below him, explosion happened, killed him. Let me see how many people were killed. There were 167 people working on board the Spyros. 76 people died. That is quite close to half, right? And I don't have the numbers here, but there's quite a number of locals and quite a number of Malaysian workers. 70 male, 6 female. And this was the worst industrial accident that we've had in our history, 1978. What do you remember of Spyros Siow Kai?
It's really a sad case. The time I still working in the shipyard, so we heard about the news. I mean the worker. Then the time there's still a union. I remember the shipyard still got a union, but not really active one.
Yeah.
The union do collect some money, I remember, and then some of the workers really sympathize those casualty, and then we donate some money, collect some money, and then one of our charge hand, my charge hand went also, because they are in the same trade. Some, I'm not sure whether they know each other, but it's really a sad case. So that incident, after the accident happened, as you know, everything try to tighten the safety, but after a while, things go back to normal.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the Spyros accident kind of reminds me a little bit about your propeller story, right? I mean, it's a different kind of incident, but the same issues you can see. The government so that there's a sense of danger there, but it seemed all right if you don't know what this shipmaster had done. So they found out that he was kind of responsible, but then who is ultimately responsible, right? Because if the authorities had checked, whether it's at the port or whether it's at the shipyard, you can actually detect what he had lied about. And therefore, the worker, the fitter, should not have been doing the heat work on the cover when there's gas below, right? So who is ultimately responsible in such a case?
Yeah. So, I mean, shipyard, there are many shipyards in other countries also. I think this particular industry, there is a proper procedure in order to avoid all these unexpected incidents or accidents. So like detecting any gas before hot work. Should be a standard procedure. Everybody have to do it before you start any hot work, especially the repair work. I think nowadays it should be, because I left the ship industry for very long already, since the late 70s. So I don't know how's thing now, but I assume it should be much better lah.
Yeah. When I interview the fitters and the technical workers subsequently, they always assure me that things have changed, that there are proper procedures. But ultimately, of course, it's not about the procedures, right? You can have on paper all these regulation, but the people involved from top to down, the fitter and or the safety officer, they must buy in, right? They must buy in that this you must follow and you must implement these procedures to be safe.
It's true. I think for those working on the ground, definitely this is their most concern, because that's their own life. So implement some safety rules and regulation, I think, to the ground worker, it's not an issue. It's sometimes how this thing being implemented. It may create some inconvenience, but I think the ground people, once you make them understand why you want to do this, they will follow, because they are more concerned than anybody else, because that's their own life.
Yeah. And I think ultimately you have to get management to understand that lack of safety actually costs them money, right?
Yes.
If you rush, you cost you money in the end, because you have an explosion, then the whole thing is delayed, right? And I think that has been the kind of the main way to try to get the management to buy in. Oh, it's money talks ultimately, right?
Yes, it's true.
So Siow Kai, I'm actually quite surprised to learn that you decided to leave the industry altogether and go to some other industry, right? Can I just ask you, for Singapore, shipbuilding and ship repair was quite a new industry at the time, right? We always had shipbuilding and ship repair, but on a very small scale during the colonial days, right? Mostly with the British and some local companies. Kallang had some local shipbuilding companies, but not the kind of scale that we are looking at, right? When the ships were huge, and subsequently there will be oil tankers and all that, and container ships and all that. What is your thinking in terms of were our workers able to, kind of upskill up, to build these ships in those days?
I think I should say yes and no. Yes is definitely, we can upskill in the 80s and 90s. I remember this Spyros Division, we built oil rig. We are the world number one, number two who are able to build this complicated oil rig and all this. So definitely we are able to upgrade ourselves. But the other thing is also the lack of manpower on the ground, because Singapore was always trade. Once you are you need to be hands-on. Singaporean were less likely to want to work on those trades. They prefer in the how should I say, put on the tie and then selling insurance, selling financial related product, rather than work in a factory or worse, work under the sun, do some skill job. That's a mentality of Singaporean. After work lah. So we have to get all those foreign workers. Like nowadays, our building industry, basically, as you say, very high percentage are from India, China.
Mm.
So I don't know how to resolve this part, but I mean, we are small, so maybe we can't really do a lot of things. We have to be focused on things that we are good at. Maybe, you know.
Like you talk about some seafoods in the past and
Yeah,
some of these experienced charge hands, right?
yeah.
In your interaction with them, do you feel that they were confident about building these bigger ships,
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
and
yes, yes.
having to complete these projects in a shorter
Yeah.
time, right?
Shorter time, okay, that part I'm not sure, but definitely in terms of knowledge, they are really good. I mean, my boss at that time is a foreman. He's about 50 years old. He start working sec 2 or sec 3, he told me. I mean, he left school. He's not good in study. So I think sec 2 or sec 3, he left school, Chinese school. So he speak Chinese and Cantonese. So at that time, he's supposedly take care of all the machinery. That means for us technicians, we take out one project. So there are 5, 6 projects, but he's overall in charge. So any technical issue, normally he's the one who we approach. And he based on his experience, so he will give some suggestion. So because he's a hands-on guy, so from the phenomena like a diesel engine, at that time, when we start a diesel engine, nowadays definitely we got a lot of device or equipment to see what is the problem. But for him at that time, by listening to the sound of the engine, he can tell you roughly, okay, which cylinder maybe is not doing well or which part may have problem. Based on the sound, no device. So this is the experience he have. And then based on his advice, then we will do accordingly some of the repair. And that is actually really the problem lying on. So his experience is good. he never go to polytechnic, he never go to university, but he's got a lot of experience.
Do you know what is his background? Where was he working?
Oh, he worked starting as those mechanic, car mechanic, and then car repair, car engine. Car engine is a petrol engine. Then later he do lorry, all those truck. These are diesel engine. And then later on, he all the while his work is related to engine. So he's the engine expert, whether petrol engine, diesel engine. So all his life he's mostly working on the engine.
So can I kind of conclude that although there were young people like you, there were experienced people like you, there were locals, there were Malaysians, generally everyone kind of knew their job, right? They can do the job and they know the job.
Yes.
But the coordination was a problem. That's the problem.
Yes. I should say at that time we were new. I remember we got a naval architect graduate from the UK. He's the mastermind of the shipyard. I mean, but every day he wear long sleeve and long pants, and then never come down. So that time all the drawing come from him and his team. Then we will look at the drawing and then do accordingly, supposedly. By that time, the drawing is very simple. Because I'm in the mechanical line, so I come across a lot of mechanical drawing and installation drawing. That day, in the 70s, all the piping is just a single line. So from point 1 to point B, you just see a single line. And then there are many lines on the drawing. So when you take out the drawing, I mean, the one is, you say useless is too much, but it's really just indicate, say from point 1 to point B, there's a connection, that's all. Then from there, you will see what is the pipe size. Then the pipe normally is a standard length, so it's over this distance, then you have to join the pipe. How to join it, with a frame or just weld it? This will the ground decide. He will not decide. He just draw a single line. Say 50 meter over, he just draw a single line. And then from there, how many joint you want to have or how many weld is all the ground decision.
So that is the kind of teamwork there, lah.
And he is a graduate from UK, a naval architect, I remember. So, I mean, later on, I also become an engineer, lah. I mean, but nowadays, the tools we have is definitely a lot. I mean, like using CAD/CAM, you just from 2D, you can visual in 3D and all this,
Yeah.
So it's quite different, but that's how things work at the time. So at that time, very much depend on the experience on the ground people. Like this 50-meter length, the pipeline, how many joint you want to weld or how many frame for the connection. Normally is the supervisor up in the charge hand, you'll make the decision.
Yeah. I mean,
based on the material you have, based on the pipe length that you have, if you will make a decision.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point you just highlighted, that a lot of the actual work came from the experience. That means it's something that we already had, when we were beginning to industrialize and all that. And without this experience, folks, it would have been quite difficult. We were just beginning to train our new engineers and naval architects. But the people who helped them gain that experience and who started the first projects, a lot of these were the more experienced folks, personnel. Yeah.
All these guys, most of them don't speak English.
Yes.
In the shipyard, the official language is Cantonese.
Are you Cantonese?
Everybody, No, I'm not Cantonese, but I understand what they say.
Yes.
And then some Mandarin, and then Malaysian normally sometimes speak Mandarin and Cantonese. No English at the ground.
I mean, that's why we call them Sifu, right? This is a Cantonese word,
right?
Your Gul Engineering was also mainly Cantonese among the Chinese. Was it mainly Cantonese?
I tell you, at that time, you go to shipyard, which shipyard you go, mostly everybody will speak Cantonese.
Yeah.
I mean, that is Singapore in the early stage. Each industry will have the direct group, people mostly there, and then so that become their common language, communicate among them. Even you are not Cantonese, but you speak to them in Cantonese.
Maybe you can kind of tell us, right? What kind of men were these? What was their character like of this experienced charge man?
They are very straightforward type, because they also learn from young. So they go through the hard way. Because at that time, maybe they can't read drawing, not like us. Okay, at least we come out from poly. When people put a drawing to you in front of you, you understand what they mean. But I can imagine them, they really learn through the hard way. So, but most of them are very friendly, because if you are willing to learn, they were definitely willing to teach. So at that time, I have a poly diploma. In the whole yard, I mean, those working on ground level, I should say, maybe not many, I should say less than 10 or less than 5. A lot of them are, say, maybe Sec 4 come out, then start working, and then they may be performing well, so they promoted from a fitter to an assistant technician, then become a technician or training technician, assistant technician. Then for us, poly go in with straight away as a technician. So technician with poly diploma at the time in the yard is not many. Everybody is based on their experience. So that's where also I learned a lot from the shipyard, from the group of the especially seafood, from the machinery, all the things that in the industry. I mean that's the place where I learned the most during my after my poly day.
Yes, I can imagine, right? Must have been a time where you really try to absorb new things and
Yes.
not an easy place to learn also. And it's very interesting to learn about this seafood. Well, Siow Kai is 12 already. We are only halfway through.
Okay.
Can we continue part 2 another day?
Sure.
I do want to talk about, your kind of upgrading yourself and becoming an engineer and taking different roles in the companies in manufacturing and all that.
Yes.
Yeah. But what you shared with me today with our listeners is tremendous. To give us a inside look at the marine industry and also the textile industry before that in the 1970s. It's a really colorful world, right? With very colorful characters. Sometimes dangerous, but also I'm very inspired, by the workers who went through there and built our first ships, as well as the technicians who ran the plants like you. You didn't even know how to drill a hole properly in the beginning. So credit to you and thanks to you and other of the technical generation for your contributions. But again, this is not the end. So we'll arrange part 2 and talk more about the later part, the 1980s and 1990s. I'm very interested to hear about that as well. So thank you very much, Siow Kai, for today's conversation.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Talk again.
Yeah.